you guys have such a range of experience in this industry. I would love to get both of your thoughts on how the business of producing content, films, TV, digital, stage. Gail, you have a long background in theater. How it has changed in this incredible, increasingly global market. How the way you work as producers has changed from, say, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. What stands out in your mind as the biggest opportunity and maybe the biggest downside of this incredible boom times that we're in?
Want to start?
Sure.
Take that one on.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Very, very nice to be here, and thanks for moderating. It is an incredibly vibrant marketplace, and it's filled with opportunity, and it's also filled with a little terror. And I say that just in general, because while there are extraordinary opportunities for content in all kinds of areas, there's also the problem that I see of the monetization of content. And that is something that I think that people are not paying as much attention to. So while we have this opportunity on a lot of new areas to sell content, as I like to say, it takes just the same amount of effort to get up to bat for an 8-episode order as it does for a 22-episode order. But at the end, there's only 8 episodes as opposed to 22, and writers are finding it difficult to sustain themselves over the course of a year. Producers are finding it more difficult because you've got to keep running in order to keep up with the pace. So there's the good news of really being able to dig in and produce quality content, and the bad news of, okay, now that I'm doing it, how can I still make a living at it?
Yeah, that's something. Lucy?
Thank you also all for coming, and especially so early. And thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Since ARP was just mentioned, I can say freely that I remember when there were 3 channels that you could watch television on. And then I remember when it was such a big deal when there were 4, and how they said that could never happen, and it was an amazing mountain to climb. And now, I wish I had the number to tell you of how many outlets there are, but I actually don't. Something in the realm of 20, maybe 20. I don't even know.
The rule of thumb is about 40
Okay.
that will spend real money.
Is that what they're saying?
About,
So I'm gonna
about
ask
40
you
that will
questions.
spend real money on original programming.
And we just found out about another one.
Right.
So, so there's lots and lots of venues, which is really nice. Coming from the movie world, the landscape has changed so radically during the time of my career, where I was vice chairman of Columbia TriStar Sony, and we made 25 movies a year.
That was in the 90s?
That was in the 90s to 2000. Mm-hmm. And now the studios altogether, I think, made between 75 and 100 movies, all studios together a year.
All 6 or 7 majors. Yeah.
Well, if there were 6 or 7, but they're not
that
anymore.
number is shrinking, right? With
so
Disney
the number
and
of
Fox
studios
merging.
is shrinking, and the number of studio movies is shrinking. And as I think you all know, if you've ever gone to see an action movie and seen the trailers, many of the movies look the same that the studios put forth. So there is this, on the one hand, the best of times with a huge amount of volume that needs to be filled with creative content. It's not in the same places it used to be.
Right.
Sometimes you don't even know where you should go because the people that you knew before are no longer there. And so it's a little bit the Wild West in terms of that, and in terms of movies, the people that make movies, and there'll always be wonderful movies that people make, certainly have been pushed more towards independent and more towards television, where there is, it's easier to launch a movie, and it's easier to have an audience for a movie. So, so I would say that we never would have imagined, and I think somebody originally said, well, why don't you talk about what it's going to be like in 5 years? And we said, we couldn't possibly, because
How about 5 days? Right?
yeah.
Really?
So maybe some of you know the answer to 5 years, but it's obviously going to keep changing, and Netflix is such a big question mark of what will happen to it, and I'm sure you'll have some questions that we won't be able to answer
Right.
on that. But
How you even define a movie these
Yes.
days? Yeah.
well, that's a separate issue. That's a very interesting one that we're dealing with in the academy.
Yeah.
What qualifies as a movie? If it is, we do have now, if it's shown a certain amount of time in a theater, which Roma just now was declared to be going to have that window, so it could qualify. But the Academy's very in the midst of a lot of debate about what will be a movie and what will be something that's looks like a movie and smells like a movie, but it never is on a big screen. So these are all, I covered too much.